Well, hello people, and welcome back to part 42 of the build guide 2. I hope you're having a wonderful day. It's been a while, hasn't it, since back in Orchid Bay, at least for me it has, because of course been on holiday and all the other stuff was pre-recorded, so I've actually not played Orchid Bay for a good couple of weeks. And it's nice to be back, isn't it? Really fun. But either way, thank you for all the support. Glad you guys are enjoying it. The city's getting really big now, isn't it? Really growing out. And today I actually want to head over to this side of the map because we've got a little bit of network prep to do. Please ignore the train traffic, they are slowly filtering out. But yes, I want to do some work over here today to help improve both train traffic and also just prepare networks for the eventual town of Sharon. And we're also going to be taking a good bit of inspiration from the wonderful Imperator today. We're going to be building essentially a man-made canal. I know all canals are man-made, but this one is kind of a custom canal rather than the kind of crap mass transit ones. So again, taken from Imperator for building out kind of a man-made river. To connect these riverways with the ocean itself. So it should be a lot of fun, lots of highways, lots of bridges, detailing. Let's do some network prep and design in City Skylines, shall we? So first of all, let's talk through the process of this kind of man-made designed canal. Again, big shout out to Imperator for this if you haven't seen his LA River in his unmodded series. It's insane. I highly suggest you go and check out his builds, just probably the best vanilla builder, I think, Imperator. Just absolutely insane the stuff he does with the game. So we're going to start out by sketching out some dirt road frames, and I want to bring these down to the water, of course. And then I want to make it about 15 wide, I think, which is quite wide, but it should be okay. So we'll go for 15 there, and then we do want road guidelines on for the majority of this. 90-degree angle snaps, and then we'll have this come down here, although we don't want the bridge though. Just come that down to where it will go. So this is going to cut all the way through, okay? So now we want to actually pause the game because we need to delete a fair bit of road infrastructure to accommodate this. So we'll get some nice bridges. It's going to be some really interesting layers of height today as well. So we'll kind of talk through the general premise and then we will time-lapse up the rest of it. So let's come up here now. I want to snap on to this one here. So I don't just want it to go straight the way through. I think we'll actually add in a little bit of a curve to it. So let's go for that one right there, I think. Again, I want to make sure that I'm still 15 out here, so I'm going to redraw that 15 measurement again. And then bring them back down. We'll worry about curves and whatnot in a second. Let's bring this one up a little bit further. Make sure we're always on 90 degrees, fantastic. And then this final approach here, we will do just straight down into the sea. Let's delete that rail line. And we've also got some slight rail interchange stuff to do here as well, because I do want this passenger line that runs into Karen, into downtown, to eventually hit the rural towns out here. So now is going to be a good time to factor in that rail infrastructure as well. Yes, and then we'll hit the road guideline, and then we'll just come straight down towards the ocean. Actually, let's line up with the road guideline of the rail first of all. Let's go for that, and then we'll bring it out about here. We want to make sure that we're 15 units out again. So we're all the same width, and that should make everyone nice and happy. With the other ones, little curve tools where required. Fabulous. So once these are all in, we will actually upgrade them to part life pathways so they begin to affect their terrain. And then we can do some terraforming with them. So let's get all these curves hooked in. Cool. So now everything is 15 wide. Let's go ahead and upgrade our side dirt roads into part life pathways. And then what this will do is allow us to affect the terrain, so we can use the slope tool to actually let the water flow through here, and then we can also use the road guidelines off of these pathways to align keys as well, which will give it that kind of final, I guess, sort of canal feel, right? So let's grab our slope tool. We're going to grab this, and we want to grab our height up here, and we're just going to push this through now, using that terrain against the pathway. So super cool. This is a much more effective way, I think, of designing a canal. You can, of course, use the mass transit canals, but it can be hard to control their water flow and their water level. They're kind of awkward to use, I think, sometimes, but this design from Imperator, just so much better. Again, I'll leave his video link down below where he does his sort of LA River in vanilla. It's pretty spectacular. If you haven't seen it, definitely go check it out. Just really incredible. So, obviously you can see what we're doing now. We're just going to slope this out, right? Make sure all of our embankments are up against those pathways. Everyone's going to be nice and happy. and then that water will flow through. So we'll be back once the water has stabilized. So once the water chills out, we should have something that looks a little bit like this. And then from this point now, we can just use some seawalls, whichever one you want really, to align up with those pathways. I think I'm going to go with just classic simple seawall. Vanilla key would also be welcome here as well, actually. And then usually just a tile away, and then let's just run it now with those road guidelines from the pedestrian path. And it's always helpful to line up your straight sections first, and then you can just use that curve tool then to line up with the curves once indeed you do reach them. So we'll get this done, and then we'll be back once this is ready as well. And then we just want to clear up any pathways that are remaining now without deleting the key. It's so annoying. There we go. Yes, they are part of the same family, so you can't just hold and quick delete because it does that, which is an absolute nightmare. There we go. Thankfully not too much of a pain. Fabulous. So that is our sort of custom canal right, much better than using the mass transit ones, I think, doing this process. Now we need to arrange a highway, so I'm going to come back in now and I want to grab a terrain height. Now, thankfully, we're already near a highway elevation, so there's no point in really having to do a bridge. We might as well just carry on the embankment from where the highway lands. So let's do this. So bring it up to here. Again, with terrain, always ugly before we look good. And it always gives us a little bit more room than we need as well, just so we don't have to be tight and squeeze things in. So we want this to be right up against the edge of the canal, and also over this side again as well, so that highway can come back down. Let's get all that terraformed up. Make sure we've got enough room here. Should be a pretty sensible approach, I think, for me. And we might even end up using some industrial highway road here, actually, just for the aesthetic of those bridges, because they're quite nice. And then with this slope here, we just want to slope it out, probably with a wider brush size. And then we can prepare those highway roads to come back up to the embankment. So let's run with our 3-lane roads first of all, and then we can worry about lane mathematics once we're all set up. So we want no grid snapping on near a key, obviously, because it does not play well with each other. And now we can draw our highway roads across. Let's go for just about the middle there. Should probably see us through, actually. I think I'm going to be pretty happy with that. And they just want to make sure that we're drawn up to the same road guideline of where the bridge starts as well when we're prepping networks like this. And that's going to be pretty much level there, is it? If not a little bit more elevation. Cool. Sometimes if you're waiting for the heights to adjust with the road over water, just let the game play and you'll see as the water level bounces that the height of the road changes. So if you're waiting for it to align perfectly, that can often be a helpful tip to embrace. So let's have that one there as well, and then this should hopefully now touch back down to earth at a pretty sensible level. Let's go about there, I think. And then do we want to just have a little test of what this industrial highway looks like over here? Is there actually a major difference between the two? Yeah, there is, I guess. I actually kind of like the barrier that comes with that. So I think we will upgrade to that 3-lane highway. And then we just want to hit that road guideline, same points, all the way back down as the bridge comes over. And this should hopefully be a relatively happy curve. Let's go ahead and get those 2 lanes again. And then we'll just bring them straight up and down. Let's go ahead and get that curve in. Fantastic. Same thing this side as well. Hit those guidelines. Curve tools. Everyone should be happy. And then just these slip ramps from the interchange we did a few episodes ago just needs to be reworked coming into here now. And then hopefully the same thing coming off this one as well. Let's redraw that one there. Cool. Let's arrange our directions. Cool. So that reinstates our highway connection over our little man-made canal area now, which is cool. Pretty happy with that. I hope to see some cars flow across it now. Here we go. So fantastic. So this should make the town of Sharon, I'd feel, a lot more industrial, having all this sort of stuff over here. I'm happy with that. In terms of other road connections down this way, let's just have a little conversation on what's going to happen before we look towards the rail. You should just be able to mooch across in a pretty simple bridge, right? There is a sweet spot there for them. It's a little underwhelming. I think we will actually downgrade this into 4-lane now. We don't really need 6-lane coming into Sharon, it's not going to be that busy. I think we will just do a simple elevation. That was 1520, wasn't it? Can we just pop over here? Yeah, I don't mind the little hump back in the bridge there, and then just replicate that descent back down. Do 1520, and that way we kind of get a nice big grand bridge coming over the waterway here. And then this road will go on to form the road hierarchy of Sharon, which will be mapped out next episode. I imagine we're going to come and do that because we've got some residential demand, and that can go there. So I also want another bridge that comes across this waterway from Sharon. So if we have this here, can we just cross over pretty simply? I think we can, but do a little bit of terrain work here. Let's make sure we're at the same heights on either side of the river, at least just for that initial crossing. So we don't have to play with any awkward terrain heights. That should be a little better. Hope we can just get across there in a smooth 20 movement. I don't mind the little hump back in the bridge. Some of the content creator roads actually might be quite appropriate here, especially the American Truss Bridge. Do like this one. Also the European one I think is pretty nice as well. Kind of give a bit more of a historical vibe about them. We could also go for that near this bridge over here as well, I guess. Does this look any better? Yeah, I do like those stone pillars. I'm a big fan of them. These are great bridges. Bridges and Piers content creator pack, by the way, if you're missing these roads. They also have different coloured pavements as well, if you're interested in that. Okay, I think we'll go with the old European stone bridge then. I don't think I'm averse to that. Fantastic news. Yes, and then this is wonderful. This can now go over the hill and far away. Let's also soften out this terrain before we go any further so it's not looking quite as unnatural or unruly. There we go. Yes, and then I don't really know what this area of Orchid Bay looks like yet. It will be rural as we head out over to these spaces, but no idea what's happening with them. And then over here, we've also got another little road connection that I'd like to make. So I want to do a bit of terraforming here, just to push through alongside this highway, because I want to run this road through here. So let's do a little bit level terrain, and of course we'll make it look a lot worse than we need it to, just so we have that room. Let's clear a little path in the forest with our terrain brush here. And I think we will use another content creator bridge, this time the American 2-lane truss. So we'll have this one come out here, and then hopefully you're just going to behave yourself as we cross the river again. We might need to do a touch more of that terrain work. Again, I always say it during these episodes, I'm sorry if these are a little bit boring, because they're not really classic builds, but every time I say that, you guys are always like, we love network episodes, so please keep them coming. So that's what we're doing. I hope you do enjoy the network planning. It's really important, you know, you can't just go into a totally untouched part of the map with no preparation in it. It really affects, you know, the end game traffic flow and just makes things a lot more difficult to use and prepare and bring public transport lines over and whatnot. Cool. So that's not too bad. Again, I don't mind the kind of humpback bridge vibe going on with it. I think I do like the little sort of cantilever truss arch that sits across the river like that. Don't mind it at all. But anyway, the whole point of this connection was to make it so we could, again, wind another little sort of country road, take me home sort of vibe alongside the highway here, and eventually hook it into that connection there. Can't imagine it's going to get a huge amount of use, but it is at least a handy connection and probably will become significantly busier once the rural towns exist. But again, network prep's always handy, isn't it? Cool, so it's starting to come together now. Arterials and collectors are starting to establish themselves. Let's have a look at the rail line now, because we do want to prep this to flow out of Sharon as well. So now let's get a little bit excited about our trains. So I think we're going to bring this one across on the angle that we had it before we did the canal. Are you just going to cross fairly sensibly, train line? You're not going to give us any classic City Skylines train line grief. We could also go for high-speed rail viaduct here too. So currently the Karen passenger line can make it back out of the city. And it's going to be, I guess about here is where I would like to start splitting this line away. So it can run off rurally, but we do want to embank it with nice wide curves. But we've already got a nice embankment layer set up here, so let's grab that one. And then we'll make it the same heights over this way. Just sort of thinking where I want that rail line to approach with the rural towns. Parallel with this arterial road would be ideal. The terrain here is pretty gnarly, so it's going to be fun, I think, getting some train lines in this way, but should be okay. I'm thinking maybe across the river, kind of through this gully with a little bit of terraforming, and then have it kind of ascend and cross over the river so it lands on this plateau. And eventually up with these. We've also got another train line over here as well that it could technically connect in with. We might have a look at doing that in the very far future. But for right now, let's go ahead and get it across the road. Choose, again, a much bigger space than we need for right now, so we're not trying to squeeze it into too small a space. And I want it to head this way, really, don't we? So let's account for that. Let's also go ahead and slope this entire landmass as well from probably about here. Cool, so that train line's got a nice, sensible hill to come up on. And all this should make Sharon look a lot nicer, a lot more well planned when we're seeing all these layers and public transport lines ready to come into the town. Yep, this is great. Maybe a little bit more curve here. And hopefully here we can ascend in a sensible fashion. I would like the bridge to have a little bit of a curve in it if possible. Something like that should be decent enough. And then I would actually like to replicate that bridge there, which was what, 1080? So we can bring that down on the same angle again, we hope. Something like that. Fabulous. And then we now know that this layer here is going to be the happy one. Push that back up to that road frame. Why it's important road frames go down first as well. Helps with terraforming jobs like this. And we can have that run straight across. And again, I imagine it's going to elevate probably somewhere around there. And we want to make sure that that elevation continues on the other side as well. Although we are coming close to the water here, so we don't want to destroy too much of that natural riverbank. With this train line here, I think the best option is to actually go for one of the Railroads of Japan stations, which is a little bit grubbier looking than some of the vanilla ones, so I think that's kind of the vibe that I want for Sharon, of course. So let's bring out some road frames here, but we should be okay. How do we feel about this over here? By the fact it's on an angle, I think that's actually going to work out quite nicely for the town centre when we do actually come and build it. I'm expecting Sharon to be about the same size as Karen, which is not a line I thought I would say when we first started this series, I have to admit. But this should be okay. Hopefully we can just come straight across here. There we go, we can cross there though and hop that back in there. And hopefully you will behave yourself with the curve tool here. There is the smallest of sweet spots, probably about there. And then we've just got to readjust that curve now, haven't we? And upgrade that back into high speed. Now we're back on the ground. That should just be a simple road guideline and curve connection back in. Hopefully not accepting the, or hopefully not upsetting the gradient police today. If anything, the humpback might upset them a little bit there. We might have to adjust that in hindsight. But either way, that does allow a connection for Sharon's train station to actually operate now. Grab ourselves a road up here. We could even just do a tiny little highway slip ramp at the end of this road. Just for some convenient highway access, but we will wait and see until the episode build for that, I imagine. Cool. Let's go get that train line now. So it does have its final destination at the minute in Karen. You're now going to come all the way down here. Stop at that one, and of course let's not forget to re-add our stops back at the station that we moved it from, otherwise it won't stop there ever again. So now our final connection in this part of the map is the couplet system, which again I think would benefit from having some highway connectivity. I don't want it totally omnidirectional. Remember, we actually want to almost discourage people off of this road, because it is a tolled road as it comes out of this sign here. We'd rather people use public transport. But again, it's just going to take a lot of pressure off of all the internal systems over this way if it has a highway connection down here as well. Same thing like we talked about last episode over here. When this eventually hooks in, all the pressure, well, not all of it, but a good chunk of it will all alleviate off of these roads that we've got here. Not that the traffic's horrific at the minute. Like, it's all moving, it's all nice and smooth. But, you know, less pressure is always better, isn't it? In most cases, anyway. Unless you're bleeding out or something. Cool, so let's bring the couplet system across now. Again, I think elevation is going to be the order of the day. And some slip ramps where we do have this elevation already is going to be helpful. So let's push out another little embankment here. Again, we'll do some sloping and softening as well, so everyone's nice and happy. And I think we'll go for a 2-lane in the same direction. Set our road guideline 2 and align this first of all. Do enjoy a parallel network, especially when we're planning. And then just want it to veer off that direction there. We can actually hit a road guideline at that point as well, which will be nice. I think I probably would like it to stay elevated. We've also got another, well, the end of the downtown arterial system here actually, which I don't think needs to be 6-lane anymore. This can probably come down towards some sort of beachfront road where we'll have it hook in with a road guideline and a curve. Something like that, which will be nice. So again, we could continue this road as an elevation, or we could embank it. I feel like we've done a lot of embankments today, so perhaps an elevated road might be appreciated for a little bit. I do feel like long elevations though can look a little bit unnatural. We may end up switching a little bit of it out for some embanking, but we'll just see what happens. So we can cross the railway relatively easy here. That's nice and happy. And I guess I want to see what happens with it, because I haven't really at all tested off camera what's going to happen with this couplet system. So let's just go ahead and give it that connection, and then I want to see just how much the AI actually prefers this way into the downtown. So we'll find out together. Go ahead and hook that onto a road guideline curve. Should be fairly simple, of course. Connections and configurations may change during our D10 time lapse, but that does give a highway connection into the couplet system now. So let's see just how that behaves. Get that hooked into. Wait a little bit of time for the AI to realise it's there. And then with this one coming out, there's no point really hooking it in this way, because they can use the arterial system here to get back onto this interchange to get back on the highway. So we spoke about this before, but I'll say it again. You don't always need total omnidirectionality when you're developing highway interchanges and ramps. It's all about just relieving pressure. So I think we'll actually bring this one across the highway and then hook it into this side, so they can use it to get back out that way. That's what I think I want to happen. So let's run with that idea. Bring these couplet systems back up now on their road guideline matches, and then we'll hopefully be able to make this one a little bit nicer. Of course, we'll sort these ramps out so they're not immediately as steep as this. But there we go. Let's see where they're going. What's going on? You're a farm truck and you're importing goods. Okay. A lot of goods vehicles. There's a resident there driving home. Going to the large playground. Okay. It's getting a little bit of usage, isn't it? Which is nice. It'd also good here actually if we could develop a little exit system into Sharon over here, which I think we'll just do with a pedestrian crossing. I don't think there's a vast amount more reason to get overly complicated than that. With the turnaround point here, we'll do a little curved one-way road and have it flow around there as a turnaround point if you want to pull off into Sharon. Then there's an exit for that one right there. We should really do the giveaway sign here. Depends how busy this road's going to get there. But either way, let's get this one hooked in now, and we'll just see how much traffic decides to move in and around this couplet system. So as we bring this road back over here, I do want it to ascend a little bit more because we need the extra height to clear the highway. Definitely don't want that suspension arch in there though. So let's bring it into the middle with that road guideline, and we'll do the elevation here. It's going to need to climb a little bit, and I think actually having a flyover in and around Sharon's going to add to the kind of grotty look of it. Maybe we can get some tents around at the bottom of those pillars to create a little bit of a homeless camp maybe. We haven't really done any homeless builds yet in Orchid Bay. But now, again, we'll find any horrific slopeness that isn't going to play well with what we like. But for right now, I just want to see that connectivity, just to see how the Sims decide to use it. Let's see what they do. Yeah, we could downgrade the lane mats here as well on the slip ramps, but there's not much need, to be honest. It's not omnidirectional, so it doesn't really need the lane mats around it. Look at that though, there's a fair few people already choosing to come off here, isn't there? So, you know, there's a lot less pressure on those internal roads now, isn't it? Because this is siphoning it all off. Any choosing to come into Karen? There's a few. I'm sure they'll regret that choice once they get in there. Okay. It's been so satisfying to finally see this couplet system in action. We've got a lot of work to do along here as well. Don't forget, there's also a monorail line here as well that needs to be extended. So I don't really want monorail going to Sharon, I think. That's kind of a little bit too posh. I want Sharon to be a bit more of a sophisticated Karen. You know, like Karen likes to complain about poor service at a restaurant and always wants to speak to the manager. Whereas Sharon is a more refined Karen, likes to complain about perhaps too much truffle in her mashed potatoes. You know, just a little bit more of an upmarket Karen, I guess, is Sharon, but you know, she still complains about everything. Thought it would be busier, to be honest. We can probably actually encourage more people out of it by making more of this road a highway, so it's high speed. But we will have to wait and see. And I still don't know whether I want this embanked or elevated. I'm really not sure. We definitely need to sort this slope out here though, don't we? But that, all in all, feels like a good place for a detailing time lapse. We're going to sketch out some very initial road frames for Sharon. Go ahead and get some tree lines and fencing around our major networks, refine any slopes that need it, so this one isn't quite as intense, maybe knock it back a couple of nodes so it's a bit smoother. I'll also sit and stare at this for a while and debate whether or not I want it embanked or elevated. I don't really know what's going out here yet, so we'll have to wait and see. We did also have a great idea that Karen and Sharon should kind of have like a Twix factory build, so there's, you know, left Twix and right Twix factories around the towns, which I really like that idea, so we'll definitely do that. So maybe the elevated networks will lend themselves better to an industrial build if we're going to have a factory over here at some point. But either way, lots of road network detailing, bring some pedestrian pathways over my man-made canal, and generally tidy the area up. Any slopes or inconsistencies that need to be refined, of course we will do, but otherwise let's detail our important network expansion, and then we'll be right back. brief detailing review, shall we? Of course, there's not too much to look at during these network prep episodes. But you would have noticed, first thing, that we have brought in a trolley bus into Sharon, which does actually connect into the trolley bus interchange in the town centre. It's now stopping here. You can see them blocking a fire engine, of course. So these come down this road now, along this way, down this arterial system, and then they cut through here. I was thinking of bringing it through the interchange with some pedestrian roads across the roundabouts, but I thought an interchange would be way too busy to have trolley buses passing back into over it. So it's coming round the exterior arterials instead. But it comes down to some basic road frame, which of course will be filled out next episode when we come to build the town of Sharon. And then it stops here with some pathways back to a walkable quay. Up to the motel asset which sits here, which of course will make a little bit of a build out of. I definitely want to get kind of a seedy motel in the town of Sharon. That's going to be quite fun, I think. Train station up here now has caught fire. Then our trolley bus system completes its loop here. And we do kind of have a spare platform here, so we might actually end up feeding an extra trolley bus service around the side streets of Karen, or maybe over the river into something else, because we do have the capacity to do that if we want. Up here we've got a bit of asymmetry as we arrive on the little slip ramp for the highway, which is getting a little bit of use actually, which is nice. And it does occasionally get used from this angle as well. Our flyover system looks really great. I'm happy with the addition of like elevated highway roads in and around Sharon, kind of adds a bit more of a dirtier vibe to it. And then we've got all this over here, right? We've got a little bit of fencing, some classic highway tree detailing, nothing that we haven't seen before. And then our gradients come down here. Decided to leave this elevated because we will eventually have a factory build here, so whether or not we choose to embank or leave it elevated will be decided during that factory build whenever we put it out this way. A little roundabout here at the end of this arterial system as it hits the coastline. Right, and then goes left and right, of course, as it comes all the way back left here. To hook in with the couplet system again, and then back down over to these roads here. So this bit's starting to get a little bit interconnected now, and we can start to develop some things along this side of the couplet system, where we'll do some detail around here as well, and also bring the cycle networks down and the monorail. Not entirely sure what's going to lie out here yet. I'm thinking maybe some hotels, a bit more waterfront tourism stuff, maybe another ferry harbour. But we'll see. Yeah, I'm just not really sure what's lying on this area of the couplet system. But nice to see that the AI now has a direct connection into downtown, because their closest highway road, of course, is all the way back through the start of the city over here. So, you know, they've now got much closer highway connectivity for them. And we'll probably end up tolling this road as well, I imagine, as it is kind of a faster, cleaner route into the city. So definitely a road that we would want to toll. Also changed this bridge here away from its embankment into a bridge so we could feed a road under it to hook back into that arterial. That has changed as well. And we've also got some pedestrian pathways ready to go. Really can't wait to see a lot of people walking around Sharon once we get some zoning in here and some unique buildings as well. But nice little prep, right? Important that we do all this so we can properly construct our town next episode. A huge fan of the canal cutting through here. We'll definitely get some sort of industrial builds up against this canal to give it a little bit more purpose for moving goods back into and whatnot, and maybe some ferries as well, because we do have the clearance here to run ferries underneath all the bridges. Also sorted this bridge out too, so it's not quite as gnarly, and all that train traffic has finally filtered back out of the map, at least for the most part. See, they're all getting stuck doing that stupid exchange thing at the bottom. It's the most annoying thing, but yeah, like, just go. Just go, you idiot. What's wrong? Honestly, it's so stupid. But whatever, it's fine. At least it's not backing up onto the rail line that's outside the map. So, it seems to clear itself up. But otherwise, guys, some decent network prep today, an important network prep as well to prepare 2 separate public transport lines for the town of Sharon, and also working with custom canals on the channel for the first time too. Again, please do go check out Imperator's version where he uses that canal trick to build an LA-style river. Insanely good, just like the guy's nuts with the vanilla game. If you haven't seen him, please go check out Imperator. One of the best, if not the best vanilla player in the game in my opinion. Please do enjoy some brief cinematics of today's episode, but otherwise we'll be back next time to build out Sharon. A lot of fun to be had over here, I think. Otherwise, I'd like to thank you all so much for watching, and as always, enjoy the rest of your day.